to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, ChiroThin, Chiro Moguls, Mahalo Wellness, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, Local Gold, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiropractic Rocks, Winner's Edge, Accident Records, Chiro Tax Pro, Full Script, your online dispensary, Angela Pearson, author of I'm Not Contagious, and Digital Hustle. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 164 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your co-host Luke Millette, and here's your host Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Casey Pride, and if you want to hear from a second generation chiropractor, both mother and father, stay tuned. All right, so time to quit looking at my phone. Just want to make sure that we are up and running for the Chiro Hustle podcast. We have Casey Pride today. This is episode 164, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm trying to share you guys real quick, and there's so many options for sharing now with these watch parties. Okay, there we go.
Right. So as we roll into this episode, we ask always of our guests to tell us their chiropractic story and what influenced them to become a chiropractor. So I know off camera we had a little discussion about a really cool story. I didn't know this. So let's just kind of share with people your chiropractic story and what did influence you to become a chiropractor. And then we'll talk about what makes you unique.
Absolutely, man. I'm a chiropractic baby. So, and I mean that for two reasons. And the first reason is for the first 11 years my parents were married, they couldn't have kids. They tried over and over and over. My mom miscarried multiple times. They were reaching a point in their marriage where they were beginning to have the conversation about what they were going to do because they wanted to have kids, but at that point it didn't look like they were going to be able to have kids of their own. They both chose chiropractic as a second career. And so, mid-late 30s. And my mom, as soon as she started chiropractic school, got under regular chiropractic care, boom, within a month or two, pregnant with me. And then pregnant two more times within a 3-year period with my brother and sister. And I was in the womb for 10 months. So power was on, after getting adjusted. So I owe my existence to chiropractic. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for it. And so I'm grateful for that. And then, of course, everything that comes with being in a chiropractic family. I was checked and adjusted from birth. My last adjustment was yesterday, and I've been regularly checked and adjusted ever since. And as a result of that, I've just enjoyed a level of health and expression of my body's innate intelligence that most people don't. And I think that's really what pulled me into chiropractic is as I got older, I realized that I was in this tiny minority of people who live the way that I live and who have this opportunity of full expression of health that I have. And that was unacceptable to me. It was unacceptable to me that to live a life that way and to have that opportunity was to live in this tiny, tiny minority. And that's why I do this. That's why I became a chiropractor. That's why I come on shows like yours. That's why I travel and speak. It's because I want people to experience this or have the opportunity to experience this. I want that for my patients. I want that for you. I want that for you. Well, I know you guys aren't chiropractors, but you deal with a lot of chiropractors. I want that for their patients. I want that for their communities. Obviously we're not talking about forcing this on anybody, but I want everybody to at least know and have the opportunity to choose into it.
I think it's a status that more people are going to want. More people are going to want to get a chiropractic exam, and they're going to want to get checked. They're going to want to know what the status of their health is, and they're going to want to have that time to have a consultation with somebody like yourself that can say, hey, let me do this exam. Let me shoot some x-rays. Let me see what's going on. And then I'll tell you how I can help you. And I think that that's a whole different conversation that a lot of people just haven't been led down that path to know that that's something that's available to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And again, that's why we're here. That's why I'm talking to you. That's why I chose into this profession is to reach people on a large scale like that. Because you're right. I mean, a lot of people are suffering needlessly. They're suffering because they just don't know.
hmm So I know one of the things that is in your bio that you sent us talks about your advocacy of being a speaker, and it also talks a little bit about your background as a musician and how you've worked with some musicians. I think that's pretty unique, and probably a lot of people don't know that about you.
Yeah, the funny thing is I used to be a musician. At one point, I really wanted to be a professional drummer, and I had my heart set on that. I was playing every day until my fingers would bleed, and I loved it. That's what I wanted to do with my life, and traveled, played shows, recorded, and kind of through that process, I met a lot of musicians and a lot of some big names, and so that's been a group of people that I've kind of tapped into. I've got some really good friends in the music industry. One guy in particular gave me lessons while I was kind of in that phase of kind of becoming a professional drummer. And once I went to chiropractic school, graduated, he ended up becoming a patient and a good friend. And anytime he's on tour or he knows people who are on tour, he refers to me, and I bring a chiropractic table to the arenas and take care of people there.
Pretty cool story, man. And I knew that a lot of people didn't know that you did that. So I just wanted to kind of have you talk about that a little bit too.
Sure.
And then you practiced down in the Dominican Republic, and I know that you've done some advocacy work for helping people that have been compromised with their freedoms with sex trafficking.
That's right. Yeah, so I've done quite a bit of work in Dominican Republic. I had a practice there for about a year, and continue to do, once we're able to travel again, chiropractic missions. But for the last year, what I was doing down there was I was working as an international rescue agent for an organization called Destiny Rescue. So my job has been to go undercover into places like brothels, bars, places where there's minors trapped in sex trafficking, slavery, exploitation, abuse, prostitution, and rescue them, work with either law enforcement or do covert rescues to get them out of those situations. So the past year, I've kind of split time between chiropractic and rescue operations for that anti-sex trafficking organization.
Yeah, I know there's another big group. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're called Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah, they're great organization.
Yeah, I was just at Tony Robbins' 60th birthday party out in LA, and they raised millions of dollars for that initiative. So I know that that's an issue, and I know that there's a lot of concern around freedom of expression with life, and I commend you for doing that type of work. And I think it takes not only a chiropractor but a warrior to stand up for other people's freedom. So I think that that's a huge thing to do. And you haven't been out of school for a whole long time, have you?
Graduated in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, you're the new generation of leadership in chiropractic.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I've kind of been thrown into it.
And one of the things that we like to always ask our guests is there any motivational message or mantra or quote that you kind of live by that keeps you fired up to do the work that you do?
Yeah. My personal mantra is have the heart of a servant and the mind of a student. And that's what I live by in my practice. And, my focus anytime someone comes into my office is delivering the best possible service, the best possible value to them that I can. You just be a servant and then have a mind of a student. I mean, there is always something else you can learn. You can learn something from every single person you meet, every patient you have, every doctor you meet. Always be learning, always be curious. The learning doesn't stop when you get the letters after your name and you get the diploma. Honestly, most of my learning has happened probably since I graduated. So yeah, have the heart of a servant and the mind of a student.
So how do you think the world would change if everyone got under consistent chiropractic care?
Gosh, I don't know if we'd recognize the world. Holy cow. For one, we'd have a healthier world. And that's huge. The need for drugs that carry harmful side effects would go down. The amount of chronic disease and morbidity would go down. You'd have people living healthier, more vibrant lives, more connected lives. So, gosh, it would be incredible. and that's, like I said, that's one reason I do this is I want this for the world. I want this for my community, for the masses. It's more than health. People think, people will be much healthier, but chiropractic has always had this component of expression of sort of the innate intelligence of the body, where when we make an adjustment to somebody, when we do what we do it with the understanding that the innate wisdom of the body is able to express. It has the opportunity to express, and that means greater health very often. But that also means just your innate gifts, who you are, is able to be expressed to the world at a higher level. We live our lives through our nervous system. So every experience we have, every relationship we have with another person, every up and down in life, all of that, we take that in through our nervous system, and it shapes our beingness and who we are. And then we express that back out to the world through our nervous system. So if the entire world was under care like you just asked, we'd be a more connected world, we'd be a healthier world, and be a better world.
So in the amount of time that you've been in practice, do you have any miracle stories that stick out in your mind? I do.
Actually, the reason I first went to Dominican Republic was because of a miracle that I experienced. We had a mission trip when I was still in school. I was in my last trimester of chiropractic school. We went to Dominican Republic, and a woman walked in when I was working, and I was in the middle of working on a different patient. He was face down. I had my hands on him, and she sits down in the chair to be next on my table and just starts yelling at me. And she's yelling at me in Spanish. I don't speak much Spanish at the time, so I couldn't really understand what she was saying. So and it was distracting. Like, it was so distracting that I couldn't be intentional with the person I was working on. So I kind of stopped and I turned to my translator and I said, okay, what is she saying? What does she need? And the translator says she's in pain and she wants to see you right now. And so I said, tell her she's next. I will be right with her, and I promise you she will be taken care of. So they did. Woman quieted down. I finished taking care of the patient, stood him up, gave him a big hug. He walks away. Before I even turn around, this woman is face down on my table. And of course, since I'm a student and it was a school trip, we had to do like a 37-point exam on this person on all their different systems before we could adjust them. And this was one of those few times where I was really glad they had us do that really thorough exam on this person, because what we found on her just was shocking. First of all, she walked in covered in dirt. She had severe pain pretty much everywhere in her body, her arms, her legs, her head. She had a palpable mass in her abdomen. She hadn't gone to the bathroom in about 8 days. She had a mass in her armpit about the size of an orange. And all of her lymph nodes up here were all swollen up to about the size of grapes. I know we always use fruit to describe like stuff like that in healthcare, but that's what we were dealing with this woman. And she had also lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. Now, when someone comes and tells you something like that and you have all those exam findings, the first thought that came into my head was, this woman's going to be dead in 6 months. And, I'm ashamed I thought that. But I did what we do, and laid her down, checked her. We adjusted her that day. We had her come back the next day. The next day when she came back, she was going to the bathroom normally again. The third day she came back, we rechecked her, redid the full evaluation. The mass in her abdomen was gone. She was going to the bathroom normally again. All of her pain in her entire body was gone. Even the orange-sized mass in her axilla and all of these lymph nodes, everything was gone. I mean, she was still skinny, but every finding that we had disappeared after 3 adjustments. And, I've never seen anything like it. It was such a powerful experience for me. It just cemented into who I am, just the power in what we do. So who have been some of your biggest chiropractic heroes, living or dead? Living, BJ Palmer is an obvious one. I mean, you have a guy who, that guy would tell you the truth and tell you what he thought no matter what, no matter who was listening, no matter what people thought. That guy was 100% for speaking out, for freedom, and for just spreading what we do as far and wide as possible. And we've never seen another person like him. So BJ Palmer, just for his commitment to getting this to people and his commitment to excellence. I mean, he wasn't just a great speaker and a great motivator, but he was an amazing clinician. I mean, he did such good research, and he wanted to make sure he understood, the mechanism of how the adjustment works and understand the nervous system as best he could. I mean, what that guy did, no one's ever done anything like BJ Palmer did. So he comes to mind first as someone who has died. Living, man, I've had some great mentors in this profession. I learned a heck of a lot from Dr. Lewis Boven, who's an AK doctor in Holland, Michigan at the AK Chiropractic Research Center. Brilliant guy, same thing, just amazing, does amazing research. He's always trying to better his craft and better the profession. Dr. George Gonzalez is a hero and a friend of mine. He teaches quantum neurology. Those are probably my big three, heroes who have really sort of created something special and really had a massive impact with what they do.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Chirothin, Chiro Moguls, Mahalo Wellness, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, Local Gold, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiropractic Rocks, Winner's Edge, Accident Records, Chiro Tax Pro, Full Script, your online dispensary, Angela Pearson, author of I'm Not Contagious, and Digital Hustle. Let's hustle.
If you could change one thing about chiropractic, what would it be?
Gosh, stop fighting. Who said that chiropractic profession is the one profession that circles the wagons and shoots inward? There's so much unnecessary infighting in chiropractic. And I think every technique and every type of practice brings something beautiful and unique that can serve a specific group of people. And, I don't think there's one technique that is the best technique, but I do think that there is one technique that's going to be best for each patient. I think each person is going to respond to different styles and different approaches differently. And I think just acknowledging the value of the different techniques that are out there and the different approaches and styles that people bring to the table instead of fighting over it would serve us so much.
Do you have a favorite technique or style?
I've got a few. I love things that are neurologically based. I love being able to test and measure nervous system function, because if the nervous system functions at a high level, the body functions at a higher level. So applied kinesiology is my big one, quantum neurology, and I really like coring specific technique as well. Really anything I can do to get feedback from the body about what it needs for an adjustment or for anything else, I like that kind of technique.
Yeah, as I listen to the conversation with you and Luke, it just makes me really appreciate the approach that we bring to a journalistic level, because I really believe that, everybody has something really important to say. And a lot of the reason that we live in these worlds of confusion is because people just don't ask people to share. Yeah. And I think it's really cool when we talk technique. We talk heroes and leaders. We talk about your upbringing and what got you to become a chiropractor and what makes you unique. I think all these things really matter when it comes to like a motivational commitment to why you do what you do and what keeps you going. Like all these things really bring full circle of the message of the healer. And let's take all of that together now and kind of forecast us to the future. And talk about where you see the profession going, and as you say, these infightings. Where do you see the profession going in the next, say, decade or 20 years?
That's a great question. I think that has a heck of a lot to do with what we do right now in these times. What we're seeing right now, especially with these lockdowns, is we're seeing an infringement on our freedom unlike we've never seen, and an infringement on health freedom. I got to call chiropractors out, man. I mean, if we want to be moving the needle in 10 years, 20 years, you better be stepping up and showing up today. You better be making your voice heard on these issues right now. There's a rally coming up. I know we talked about this briefly on the last podcast. There's a rally coming up in Sacramento, a peaceful, I want to be clear on this, a peaceful assembly where we're going to be making our voice heard about health freedom, about these infringements, about these lockdowns that are unnecessary. I think where are we going to be in 10, 20 years? I think that depends on what happens in these next few months, these next few years. Things are changing so quickly in the world right now. I mean, even from 2 weeks ago to now, I mean, everything is changing so quickly that I think the most important thing that as chiropractors we can do right now is stand up, make our voices heard, stand up for this profession and stand up for our patients. And I think the world's watching. They're watching who's stepping up right now and who isn't. And if they look at this issue and they see us stepping up like we are, like you are, like I am, like guys like Billy DeMoss are, we're going to see a huge increase in people who are using chiropractic care in the future. One, because they know our heart, right? They know our heart. And two, they're going to see through all this that we're good at what we do and that we're getting results that other people just aren't. So I'm optimistic personally. I think God uses everything for good. I don't understand everything that's going on, but I trust that there's a plan and purpose for it. In 5, 10, 20 years, I mean, I see chiropractic as something that everybody understands and most people choose to do if we step up today and fight for it.
Well, I have a deal for you.
Yeah.
In 2 years, let's watch this episode together.
Dude, let's do it, man.
So how do you make your voice heard? What are some of your favorite marketing tactics or gimmicks?
The most important thing for me has been just being damn good at what I do. Being good at what I do. You don't need to attract 100 patients on Facebook. You need to attract a few and then make sure you're damn good at what you do when those people walk in, and make sure you show up for them when they walk in, and then they'll refer. So I would say, as far as getting the message out in marketing, start by being great. But Facebook has been really valuable, especially right now. We can't engage. What I've loved to do in the past is network, speak, be in public, things like that. Those are kind of off the table at the moment. Everyone's on their phones. So if you're not doing Facebook Lives, if you're not reaching people on social media right now, you're missing a huge opportunity. So I would say Facebook is the big one. Just doing live videos. That's where I've been able to have the most reach. Instagram's really good, but I would say get on Facebook if you're not, and make sure you do a live video. Anytime something's on your heart, do a live video.
Yeah, I think the value is going to where people pay attention. And you have to go follow where people are spending their time. One of the marketing strategies I learned early on was to go where people eat. And you know what everybody eats with? Their phone.
Yeah.
So if you can show up at their meals where they are in real time, you don't need a seminar or a stage.
That's right.
Yes, open their newsfeed.
Yeah, and seminars and stages are great. I love going to seminars and being on stages, and it does a lot for your credibility. But yeah, you want to go where people are, and right now people are in their homes and they're on their phones. So reaching them there is the smart choice right now.
Almost everybody you see eat will have their phone right in front of them.
Yep. Yeah, even in restaurants when they're sitting with each other. So, well, not restaurants maybe right now, but yeah, I mean, when people are eating together, it's like, gosh, yeah, they're on their phones.
So do you have a favorite stage or seminar you've attended or spoken at?
Oh, I do, man. I'm so glad you asked. The Truth. I want to give a huge shout out to my man, Dr. Michael Hudak in Kansas City. Every year he puts on the Truth world-class chiropractic philosophy in Kansas City. And I've been blessed enough to be on that stage 4 times now. He's the man. He puts on a great seminar, amazing speakers. And what I love about it is it's like family. It's like family. It's intimate. I mean, every time I go back, it's like coming home. So that's one that is on my calendar every single year. Also, so much love for Billy DeMoss and Cal Jam. I love that. And now that I'm out in Southern California, that one's going to be one that I'm at always. Those are probably two of my big favorites.
Have you been to those?
I've never been to the Truth in Kansas City. Mike has reached out to me, and I've had conflicting schedules every time he reaches out to me. So I'll definitely have to look at putting that onto my calendar. Luke and I, this past year, we did 20 interviews at CalJam in 2 days. And the year before that, we had press passes, so we were behind the scenes backstage. And I attended, I think, 2 previous to that. So I've been a part of the CalJam movement for the past 4 years. And I got a chance to have Billy DeMoss in 2 of our chiropractic documentaries. So I've been paying attention to that guy big time. He's one of those truth tellers that doesn't lie down. And he feels that the world needs to be basically not handled with kid gloves. And we need to tell the truth of the reality of where the medical tyranny is coming from. So, there's a couple of years, man, where I came back from a CalJam and people were like, well, what was it like? I was like, dude, it felt like a huge vaccine rally. Like, but the more I realized it is that was a necessary position for what Billy thought was needed, because people did need to become educated on vaccine freedoms and vaccine choice and vaccine, what happens when we don't have our freedoms for that. We're seeing that today.
Yeah, I got to give Billy some love, man, because there have been a lot of rallies, a lot of peaceful protests, and I've been attending as many as I can. He is at every single one of them, man. That guy will fight for this profession and speak out for this profession, even if he is the last person on earth doing it. And that's just how he's always been. So yeah, his office is 2 miles away from here, and amazing guy, amazing seminar.
And at the last one, we got to see Josh Axe give a neuropathy treatment.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I had to miss the last one, unfortunately, but I will certainly be there next time.
So let's talk about you personally a little bit. What kind of books do you read? What podcasts do you like? And what are some of your hobbies? I know you like playing the drums.
Yeah. Books. I'm really into like leadership, character development books. Of course, I'm always interested in the latest in neurology and stuff like that. So with that, I'm usually reading seminar notes. But there's a really good book that I've been reading called The Compassionate Samurai by Brian Clemmer. That's one I highly recommend for everybody. Anything by Jocko Willink, like Extreme Ownership and The Dichotomy of Leadership. Those are both really good books. A Course in Miracles. I just like to keep my spiritual house in order, and I'm always diving into scripture as well with the Bible. Those are my big books, I think, that I recommend to people. Podcasts, I love the High Wire with Del Bigtree. That's one of my favorites. He is the man. And one thing I love about Del is he's one of the few people out there who, if he gets something wrong, he'll tell you. Like, you don't see that on many podcasts or on mainstream news. So every episode is so current to what's going on. He's kind of kept his finger on the pulse of everything going on with these lockdowns and COVID-19. That's really good. Your podcast, Chiro Hustle, is phenomenal. There's another one that's really good is the Underdog Curve. Or no, excuse me, it got renamed. The Vitality Shift podcast with Dr. Don McDonald. He's so sharp. It's such a good podcast for people for just building a practice, sort of building rapport, how to manage a practice. A lot of love for Don McDonald. What else did you ask? Hobbies?
Hobbies.
Drums. Love martial arts too. I've been training Taekwondo since I was a kid, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a number of other martial arts. And that was really important to me, especially working in rescue operations, making sure that I can, handle myself. So I love martial arts, and plus it's a huge stress reliever, huge way to ground myself.
Well, something you said there reminds me of the show. I think it was like Pardon the Interruption, or a show on ESPN where they go in and they like review the facts at the end of it. And they're like, well, 90% of the things you said were right, but we're going to correct you on this because we have somebody watching and they're following up on what you say. So they fix it. And I think that that's something important that what you said, Del, does is because if somebody doesn't, you can only stand on the truth if it's true. And whether it's sports or whether it's our freedoms.
Sure. And, we're doing the best we can with the information we have. There's so much that we don't know. And, and he puts out the information and, he shares his take on it. And sometimes things change, or studies that he cites get proven wrong. And he'll come out and it doesn't happen very often. But when it does, he'll say, hey, listen, we got called out on this. They were right. Here's where we were wrong, and here's what's actually true. I got to give him mad respect for that. I love Dale. Such a sharp guy, such a good guy.
Well, we're coming up on the edge of our interview with you today. Is there anything that we didn't discuss with you that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah. One thing I've been sharing quite a bit from stages recently is just the power of intent, and intent, especially when you're putting your hands on people to adjust them. Your intent matters. And right now, with all the stress of life, the stress of COVID-19, the stress of lockdowns, it's easy to walk into a room with a patient or with a client distracted, and with your head and your heart just not with that person in front of you. My message to chiropractors and people watching is you got to make sure your intent's there. You got to make sure your heart's there, your mind's there. It's more than just your hand moving a bone. I mean, your love, your spirit, your energy flows through you every time you put your hands on somebody. And if that intent isn't there, if your heart's not in it, don't do it. Your patients deserve better than that. And that's something I really like to leave your chiropractor, the chiropractors watching with.
So what are some websites and resources you could give us if people wanted to learn more about you?
Sure. So social media, I'm pretty active on social media. It's Dr. Casey Pride on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So just Dr. Casey Pride. My website, drcaseypride.com. If people are interested in having me speak, that's the best place to reach out to me. My email is drcaseypride@gmail.com. So just Dr. Casey Pride. Use that for everything and you'll find me. We'll cross paths one way or another.
So if they forget your name, they're really in trouble.
Yeah, they'll be in trouble. Everything's named after me.
Okay, well, that's pretty much the end of this episode, Dr. Casey. I want to thank you for being our guest today.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been awesome, man. I've been following you for a long time, Jim. Met you a while back, and I'm glad we crossed paths again.
Yeah, just keep your advocacy up and keep on serving with the heart and hands. And we'll sure be in touch soon, okay?
Absolutely, brother.
It's nice meeting you.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.